It may be questionable, but it is Red Friday, and this is the game plan for the Chiefs to take down the Chicago Bears. The question is, are they a possibility to bite back? Are they a true caged animal, cornered and coming out scratching for the eyes? I don't know. We're going to find out today. This is Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy. Welcome to RGR Football. Hope you guys are ready. For those of you that are attending GABF right now, put us on speaker and let everybody hear us, because I had a good time last night. Was supposed to be there again tonight, but it isn't working. So my plans for the live have gone straight trash. So we'll get to that. And shout out to Mike, wherever you are, who will be back touring tomorrow. So a lot of stories for you down on GABF so far. But tonight, it's about the Bears, isn't it? Or is it about the Chiefs not forgetting the Bears? What's the focus today?
Yeah, it's funny that the Chiefs have almost the exact same situation that they had last year, where you're facing a team that shouldn't beat you by any stretch of the imagination. You have an offense that's not necessarily clicking on all cylinders, and you can't overlook this opponent. The Chiefs ended up losing to the Colts in this exact scenario last year. Exact scenario last year. I think that's going to be fresh in their heads. I do hope that they have a little bit of carryover for that specific reason, because right now this game is all in the head. There's on paper, on the field, the Bears do not stand a chance. They don't. They have zero actual way to win this football game unless Chiefs just skip over them. They just skip them over.
Yeah.
So that's what this is. This is a game of, you can't overlook the schedule. You still got to come and play a football game on Sunday.
That's the way that it goes. And you guys in the chat are super on point. That's exactly what has to happen. It is the Colts scenario all over again. Kudos to everybody here. Like, sub, and hit that bell as you come in and join us. This is a little bit, as we're searching for the time on Fridays, and obviously when I'm not home, it doesn't really help the situation. So we're kind of rolling with the flow. But honestly, maybe we're not at the top of our game right now. The Chiefs certainly aren't either with their roster. Nick Bolton out, Richie James out, a number of guys, quote unquote, questionable. You tell me, when I look at this, we're going to talk about what they have to be wary of those Bears. But if there's a game to miss Nick Bolton right now, this is probably it. Like, I'd like to have him for 16 out of 17. If this was the one, this is probably the one I would have chosen.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that, especially the way that their season is gone. The off-field distractions now, the quarterback distractions, the press conference distractions, all of this stuff playing against the Bears. And I mean, at the end of the day, this is going to be the best opportunity to not have Nick Bolton. If you don't have to have him, it's going to be a game where, again, I know Willie Gay is questionable, but I think that he's going to play. They're going to have Leo Chenal out there quite a bit still, I think, and they're going to have Drew Tranquill as the green dot. He played a good amount on Sunday by design, according to Steve Spagnuolo, which is always good to hear. That's comfortability. Honestly, I'm more comfortable now knowing that he was out there by design last week, and he's going to be thrown into this situation now. So he's got the reps. He understands what he's doing. And also, he looked very good. He didn't look out of place. He didn't look uncomfortable. He didn't look behind. The whole defense looks like they've stepped up their game this year, and they have really taken the bull by the horns to be able to be ready for every game. They're accepting the challenges. So I'm hoping that they continue with that throughout this game, because you do have to you can't forget that you're playing an offense that still has some explosivity to it. Like, it's not just a team that doesn't have much. It's not going to roll over. You forget about Justin Fields. He's going to run for over 100 yards on you easy. He's going to do it. So you can't just forget that he's not there. I mean, forget that he's on the field. You have to still lock in. You have to show up, and you got to play this game.
Yeah. Folks, we're not going to make a marathon out of tonight. It is Red Friday. We know you have things to do. So if you want a question answered, throw that super chat out there. We'll make sure we get every super chat answered. Otherwise, we're going to roll through some of these topics as you guys have outlined them really, really well. But I agree with you. And the two guys that stand out to me, Mooney didn't get targeted last week for the Bears at all. You have Moore and you have Claypool, and I think they both still have that hurt you possibility. Do I think that they're uber dangerous? No, that's not the feeling that I get, but you can't discount that, because at this level, the difference between winning by 10 and winning by 20 is nothing. If you screw that up, it could come down to losing by 2. very, very easily. The margins in the NFL are just that tight, and so you can't take anybody for granted. You don't want to let Claypool loose. You don't want to let Moore loose. You don't want to take for granted that 100 yards from Fields on the ground. You don't want to slack off and let that turn into 220.
Yeah, definitely not. Not a great idea to just forget that you're playing against some of these athletes. And Justin Fields, for everything that he hasn't been this season as a passer, is all that and more as a runner. He's a very excellent runner, elusive, electric. They compared him today, the coaching staff, to Tyreek Hill, and that kind of movement in the open field is very obvious to see from the quarterback. So just wrap up, rally, tackle. That's what this was going to be, right? They talked about tackling being one of the places they can work on it. Guess what? This is a game. You got to work on your tackling. You're going to have some guys. DJ Moore's not the best make you miss candidate, but Roshan Johnson, who's going to probably be their backup running back, is a little quicker, fleet of foot. He's not the most explosive guy, but he's going to run some guys over and look to make some miss behind the line. You have to account for that, not let those 1 to 2 yard gains turn into 5, 6, 7 yard gains because you're not tackling properly. You're not there fundamentally locked in on defense. And like you said, you let Darnell Mooney outside anywhere, he's gone. He's a 4-3 athlete. He's not going to just, be allowed to be caught up to. So got to keep the top on still. And I'm personally not worried about Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool's just apparently not really showing up for much. He's just kind of there. And the one player that I think I would be a little more worried about is Cole Kmet, who they haven't used a ton this season, but if they come with a decent offensive game plan, which they have yet to do this season, they would do that against the Chiefs. And I believe Kmet would be more of a mismatch option, a very big player that you can line up on linebackers or safeties and get a mismatch. So I think that Justin Reed should have his work cut out for him if they're trying to match him up with Cole Kmet all game.
Well, and let's recap what we've talked about so far, folks. A weakened second level for the Kansas City Chiefs, and the strength of this offense may be guys that want to cross across the middle and the tight end and the slot receivers. Maybe
Yeah.
you're getting the running backs on angle routes as well. I personally feel like eventually on this roster that Roshan Johnson will be the number one. I think he has that in him. He hasn't exploded yet, but if the Chiefs don't take him seriously, that could happen as well. So for me, it's coming back to last season, which the focus was between the hashes. That's going to be the same thing this week. Are you worried about 15 yards deep and beyond? Not terribly, but it's that 12 to 15 that I think they can target and move the ball. And all of a sudden, they get a couple first downs, and you're looking around like, hey, how did this happen?
Yeah. You can't, you just can't. Again, we talk about having your head on, right? And that's what this is going to be. I know that Justin, everything is saying that their offense isn't going to show up, but this is the game that it would show up. I mean, you're playing against the Chiefs, and you want to try to right that ship. And the organization does not have much going right for them right now. And again, as a team that's trying to stop the bleeding, one way you can cauterize that wound is to beat the defending Super Bowl champions. That's what you can do. You can help give not just the team, but your fan base, your organization, a little bit of hope that there's something there. Because right now, everyone is thinking about where are the Bears going to be picking in April of next year? Is it possible they have 2 top 3 picks because the Panthers aren't doing so well? Maybe we're looking at Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. That's the kind of stuff you have to stop. And that mentality goes from the players and gets into the fan base, into the organization. So that starts on Sunday when they play the Chiefs, where they can try to say, got to have some pride here and come out and play. So
Right.
At the end of the day, this comes down to the Chiefs continuing to play the defense, the brand of defense that they have started the season out, which is it's physical, it's tough, and they get downhill quickly. They have not really been a team that just lets bombs go. Like I know there was a couple big plays against them last week and a couple of chunkers against the Lions, but relatively speaking, they've done a good job of keeping the huge plays on lockdown and keeping everything in front of them. So, and when we're talking about this Chicago Bears offense, it's again, the lid is already half closed because the offensive coordinator and the scheme is so bad. don't let one of those plays, just kind of pop that lid up for you. Just kind of keep it down there and just keep everything in front of you. Let the game flow, function properly, take advantages of the things that you have control over, like the offensive line, and forcing Justin Fields to continue to hold on to the football, which he's done most of the season.
Yeah, I think that can help you a lot. Whether the longer he holds it, I think the more options you have to get to him, but you may be able to get to him early too. So
Yeah.
for me, it's the edges that have to come in and play with discipline, because if you miss, if you reach and he gets loose, he's going to go for big gains, right? But this is an offensive line unit for the Chicago Bears that is missing their left tackle, who was a rookie to begin with, Braxton
Yeah.
Jones. We told you about him from out of Utah in the draft cycle. I like the kid, but now they got a backup that can't beat a rookie out. Now they're lower down. Just talk about Darnell Wright flipping over. I think that's a mistake if they do that. I think you leave him at right or you let him do what he's doing. We'll see what happens. But either way, George Karlaftis, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, when they line up Chris Jones out there, certainly Mike Dana. We'll see who else gets to rush from the edge. Maybe it's Leo. They might not even do that. They might keep Leo off the line of scrimmage more in the linebacker role. But whoever does it, the tackles, you can go manipulate. And Cody Whitehair, the left guard, good Lord, man. I'm sorry. You're like the number 56 guard in the NFL, and you get Chris Jones this week. Good luck, brother.
I do. I feel bad for the Bears offensive line. I really do, because Chris Jones showed everyone last week that he's motivated. And when you have a motivated player coming in and attacking an offensive line, much like the Jaguars, that isn't very good, you end up with lots of pressures and lots of hurries and lots of throwaways and lots of possible bad plays. So again, we keep reiterating this, but it's an important point, because last year we talked about this a lot too before the game, and they didn't heed those warnings. They didn't do it. What's going on, everybody? They didn't heed them. So we got just to keep feeding the beast. And right now, this beast is, yes, you lost week 1 to the Detroit Lions. That can't happen week 3 against the Bears. It cannot happen when you're going to be going against probably, later in the season, some of the best teams in the NFL, and you don't need 2 losses on your record, even though they're against the NFC. That doesn't matter. It's about the number 1 seed and still trying to go for that. And early season losses can come back to bite you more often than not. And as much as the Chiefs have had home field advantage, it's not without things breaking their way. It would be nice to have a little bit of control getting to that point. And again, losing this early in the season to teams that you really shouldn't be losing to is one of the ways to avoid that.
Yeah. You take a look at what they had to do offensively. You flip that over, and let's be real. Matt Nagy talked about it. You mentioned it before. Like, you have to expect the best from this team. Everybody gives you your best shot. That's what Matt Nagy talked about this week. And I think it's nice to hear him echo what we all say all the time, because even though it may not be worded the same way, they see the same thing. Is that you have to be prepared every single week. And so for this offense, that means you have to take advantage of the situation. Terrible situation if all the rumors are true. We're not going to address rumors because I don't know details. But when your defensive coordinator is under investigation and there's federal police coming to investigate his home, and he has to resign in a rush, it leaves the defense exposed. Let's be real. Do you have capable position coaches maybe they can take out? I don't know if they had an assistant DC or not, but like somebody you hope is an up-and-comer enough that you can put them into that role, let them call the defense, and hope that they're going to be okay. It's just the Chiefs are the Chiefs. So are they going to take advantage of it? Hell yeah, they are. So that's the thing is, for me, the other side of the coin is that you have to have the mental acuity to keep the pedal down, more so than we normally complain about, hey, Andy doesn't want to call plays and run it up, whatever. This is a situation where it shouldn't be close. It shouldn't be competitive. Don't let it be because you fall asleep. So for the Chiefs offense, for Patrick Mahomes in particular, no lazy throws, no not stepping into the ball, no jump passes when you don't have to, none of that. Execute your offense, play hard, take them out at the knees, and be done with it.
This is also one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL that they will be facing. It might be the worst pass rush in the NFL. There's no teeth along that defensive line. Don't give them teeth. Don't give them any reason to get going in this game. Don't let pressures just happen for no reason. Like, establish yourselves on the ground first. And that's one of my big points. The Chiefs ran twice in the first half against the Jaguars. They ran twice. That's it. Their offense was pretty stagnant most of the game. Obviously, penalties helped that situation, helped that fact out. This Bears defense, again, like I said, has no teeth. Punch them in the mouth with the run game. Keep your offense on schedule. Run 5-6 times in a drive, a long drive. Continue to churn out those yards. And then when the big problem, I watched the Chiefs offense against the Jags again today. They were sitting on every intermediate 5 to 10 yard route. They knew what was happening. They knew what was coming. And they couldn't get going because Mahomes has got so used to saying, all right, I'm going to throw it to Kelsey. It's a part of our run game. It's a part of our run game, okay? At the quick game, it does that. When they're just sitting at the 5 yard marker and saying, hey, go ahead, throw away. But you don't. And then when they actually set up a play action pass out of under center to Sky Moore, runs the wrong route, at least what Mahomes wasn't expecting to happen. And I posted on Twitter earlier today, there was a play where Sky Moore does such a great job. You have the safety who's shaded to the other side of the field. He turns the cornerback around with a little fake to the outside. And then instead of taking it upfield, like Mahomes is expecting, because you can see him look to step into the throw, he stops. He turns it into a curl. That's the kind of miscommunications that makes him have to hitch his throw and then readjust because he's already committed to throwing the football. And by that time, he's got someone in his face. So these little miscommunications, they will get ironed out. It's all about using this game as an opportunity to explain to your players, if you see this, do this. I don't care what you think you're seeing, but if you see this, you see a safety going to the opposite side, take it downfield. Take it downfield. Test some of the deep balls. Get some of these kinks worked out now so that you're not having these against better offenses and better defenses where you don't have opportunities to make some of these mistakes. Yes, you might see some of these early in the game, but I think the run game early, get after this defense, punch them in the mouth a little bit, get them on their heels early. You should be able to have your way with this defense if you do that.
We might see Blaine Gabbert if that happens. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
For those of you who are like, what are you guys talking about? It comes down to recognition and execution in the same way. And so, especially Dan, when you talked about when he did get him turned around on that play in particular, Sky's been in the game plan where you're expecting to have to sit down. There's two ways to attack a zone. You can sit down in the gaps, wait for the quarterback to deliver it, or you can run through the middle of the damn thing and tear it apart. And when you have enough speed with Kadarius Toney, I think Sky Moore still qualifies. I wouldn't call him a speedster. You could definitely do that with Watson or MVS, but he's got enough. Like when you get that opportunity, you've done the hard work to win the route, and you've got the guy on his heels. Take it to the house where you can because you've already done the hardest part. Just run, damn it.
It was so frustrating.
It's recognition for those guys. It is, but you know what? It's a learning curve as well. And so, like, I take away that, like you said, this is a game to go out and execute. This should be, in my opinion, for the guys who don't play a ton, like Rashee Rice. Sky Moore obviously plays a lot, but he's still yet that second-year player. For guys that aren't MVS and Justin Watson that have a lot of expertise and a lot of experience that they can apply to this ballgame, it is about like, oh, maybe I can go out and dominate in this way or in that way. Like they have to go out and actually do it. And that's why this is, in my opinion, in this first like 6-game stretch, this is the biggest opportunity for growth on the offensive side that I see. I'd hoped it would be Pacheco too, to hit some holes, have a chance to break through the second layer and get into the secondary. He's questionable. And so like for everybody who was questioning us in preseason, like why aren't they trading Clyde? Well, this is why they weren't trading Clyde, because Jerick McKinnon, you don't want to put miles on him if you don't have to. Pacheco obviously has a couple of things. Like I don't know the severity of this. And it may just be purely cautionary, but I expect that you could see an elevation. You're going to see a lot of Clyde, and that's why he's still here. And to your point, if they use him enough, that should take that pressure off. And as you were talking about trying to win a route to a certain point and then take it to the house, you get those safeties to come down by running the ball. Those hitches, pull safeties down. Let them think that you're doing it. I think that's going to be in the game plan. I don't expect as many like crossers this week or as many kind of like, especially certainly not the behind the line of scrimmage plays. There's just no reason for that. I don't think that
Mhm.
it gains you an advantage because this defensive front isn't good enough to over pursue enough to make it work.
You're not wrong about that. You're not wrong about that at all. So again, and we were probably going to see a very vanilla game plan, guys. It's going to be working on their stuff. Like that's what it should be. But you also have to come in with that execution mindset. Yeah, we're going to bring a vanilla game plan, but we need to execute at a high level. If we can set up our game smaller game plan, a vanilla game plan, and we can execute this at a high level now. That will help everybody. It would help the rest of the season because then you can put these plays in and sequence them with your better plays throughout the season, and that's where the Chiefs get better. That's just where they get better when they find out what works and they can execute it that well to bring in other plays. And personally, I don't think Pacheco's going to dress for this game specifically because it's against the Bears. So if he's questionable with a hamstring injury, which that's what he has, I personally don't necessarily think that you should risk him anymore when he's got two other problems that he's just now getting over, excuse me, and then you add a hamstring onto it. I don't know. Doesn't seem
Yeah,
like the best idea. I would think that Pirine will be elevated once again for this game and get him involved too. He's a hard-nosed player. You can use that to your advantage and keep some of the miles off of McKinnon. We know that Clyde's not the most explosive guy in the world, and yet here we are seeing him being used in ways that require explosivity. Makes no sense. Just doesn't make any sense. Run them up the middle. Get this interior going. I was just listening to the I was just listening to the New Heights podcast, and I tell you, we say this a lot. We say it a lot. But Jason Kelsey confirmed that when you do, because they were talking about them winning the game on Thursday night about how they ran the ball 13 times in a row. They ran out inside zone 13 straight times. They ran 13 straight times. Okay. They offensive linemen love it. They absolutely
hmm
love that stuff. Get it going early. Let this offensive line get into a rhythm and allow them to access that part where they can just get downhill and start mauling people. We don't see that from this offensive line much because they don't get a chance to do it. Like I said, 2 times in the first half last week, they ran the ball. That's twice. That's it. You can't, I understand that you have Patrick Mahomes, and I get it. I'm preaching to the choir. We all love the passes and everything. Run the damn
yeah.
ball.
Folks, this message has been brought to you by Ryan Tracy Incorporated because Dan's going to take the message home today. We appreciate your support. If you guys would hit the like, we'd appreciate it. Thanks for reminding me. And if you guys are looking to get in the game, go help out our sponsor. DraftKings is here to help us, so give them some shout. Use our code RGR. That'll give you a little bit of help to get started. It's a great deal, and I think you guys will dig it. I tell you what, I love hearing you be the voice of reason where I don't have to sound like I'm just like the old dude on the porch screaming, run the ball, run the ball. But it's what happens. And I think more people need to see that bit from Jason to
Yeah.
understand what it does for the guys that are executing those plays and understand that it gives you that physicality, lights you up and gets you triggering, gets you better in tune with what your opponents are trying to do. And honestly, it's like a wrestling match. For those of you that wrestled in high school or college or whatever, when you start to learn the tendencies of where the balance point is for your opponent, that helps him pass block. You have to do that in close contact, and that means running the ball. And I think for all the people that are complaining about Matt Nagy, I'm not laying it at Matt Nagy's feet. Matt Nagy is not the we have to run 1,000 times guy, never has been. He's a creative run developer, and I do like that concept. But the departure of the enemy, I think we are starting to see, unless they come out and do what you said there, that we are starting to see that Andy is just like, has to be coaxed into running the ball.
I mean, you might absolutely be right about that. Maybe the old running back, the old school running back was the one that was like, hey, we've got we have Isaiah Pacheco. Let's run some power. Let's do some other stuff. I know, Knight. I understand. It's usually not my thing. But when you see an offense struggle, like the Chiefs offense struggled against, I'm going to say it, the Jags defense is not very good. It really isn't that good. But when they came out and they ran the ball twice in the first half, I was just I got
It's
no
sad.
words for it. And I get, like I said, this game against this defense, it's got to be an opportunity to show that you, not just everybody, but your own team, that there are going to be times when you want to run the ball 4 times out of 6 plays, that you're going to want to do that. If you can't do that, guess what? What makes you think you're going to be able to do it in crunch time if you can't do it in a regular game? Like, there are going to be times. I want everybody to go and watch that drive from the Eagles in the Minnesota game where they just ran the ball and they didn't stop. There was nothing Minnesota could do about it. Absolutely nothing. And I understand what the analytics I understand what the analytics says. I get it. Trust me. I am a pass the ball guy. Real football players will tell us. They tell us all the time. Those body blows add up. They absolutely do. There is no metric figure that you can quantify that says that it does. But guess what? Bodies, defensive tackles, defensive ends, linebackers, they all feel that stuff in the third and fourth quarter. They absolutely do.
And the reason that I'm chuckling, and good job, 900, you got me to chuckle too. But the reason that I'm like over the top is because that feeling that you get when you know they can't stop you, and you can just muscle up on them over and over and over, that sends your confidence through the roof. That makes the 5 on the offensive line plus the tight end, if you've got somebody in line, that starts to come together. And so every snap you get in that kind of drive makes you tougher for week 12 or the wild card weekend when it isn't that easy and you have to go beat the crap out of somebody and you need to be together like that. That's how that stuff pays off. It's a large chess game through 17 weeks just to get out of the regular season.
Yeah, it's and this will be the end of my soapbox, everybody. It will be, because we'll get to some other passing stuff, but this is a good point as well. Yes. I'm telling you right now, if they had more of the power game like they had last year, this would be a little bit different, because as KL points out, they did this very well, except against the Bengals, where they ran the ball on just about everybody and they could do it at will. They had the will to run the ball at times. So that's what this comes down to, is that you got to have the will to do it. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to work on this in game and be able to execute it when you need to. And that drive to end the game against the Jags, where they ran the ball consistently and they ran it well, like, that's something I want to see carry over. And I think the Chiefs want to see that too. And as much as Andy wants to throw the football, he understands that there's an importance to having a run game that defenses respect. They don't have to fear it. They don't have to fear it, okay? They have to respect it. Because if they don't, we get to this question, which I'm going to skip over because to some people, because this is a point that I want to make. What I was talking about earlier, Jesus. When you don't have a threat to run the football, it looks like the Chiefs aren't RPOing because the linebackers aren't moving. They take a step in one direction, they're like, oh, okay, you got the ball still. They're not worried about you handing off the ball. They're not worried about it at all. So there was one of the plays where Patrick ended, everyone remembers the sidearm throw. They got batted down. That was an RPO, but the linebacker did not move off his spot. He just went like this, knocked it down out of the air because, hi, I see you're not running the ball. So they did run RPOs in this game, but they were ineffective, and he had to clutch a couple of them, double clutch a couple of them, because guys were sitting on those short routes.
It's a run pass option. If you don't run, it doesn't scare anybody. It doesn't move safeties and linebackers. You got to use both parts, at least some. That's just the way that it goes. And the other thing that it'll help is this aspect. Thank you, David. It alleviates some of the pressure on Juwan, because I do think they're still going to be looking at him. Is it going to be as intense as last week? I'm not so sure. Last time they did this, when they changed the roughing the passer rule, remember, about landing on the guy and all that? Like, they were hardcore for 2 weeks, and then they started to back off because it just got to a silliness point. And you hear other tackles around the league talking about, Juwan's fine. Stop bringing this up. I don't want the laser on me either. So, like, there's enough of it going around that I think it'll start to fade, but it might be another week where it's pretty intense, I think.
Yeah, it's possible. They have to. The NFL typically wants to prove their point and make their point. And I think that it was proven last week. I think he got the message. I think this week we will see a much different Juwan Taylor.
Knock on wood. I'm here for it. I hope so.
Absolutely.
Let's go back up top. We're going to hit some random questions here before we wrap it up for the night, folks. This is the game plan. Like, sub, hit that bell. Make sure you are part of Rogue Nation. If you are in the memberships, join at the rookie level or upgrade or whatever you want to do to get in the Discord to make sure that you can get my game notes. Did put those out last week. So you members, if you haven't seen that yet, there's a private community tab in which you can get members only information there. And that's the way we're doing it for now. And you'll get all the additional like behind the scenes type true and flamboyant more reactions from both of us. So let's hit the speed round here. What do you think that we could get for Snead in a trade? Second and a fourth? Don't see you getting a first.
Yeah.
It depends. There could be a team desperate enough to give you a first. I doubt it, but there could be.
Depends on how his season goes. If his season goes well enough, that's a part in this as well. Like right now, I would not necessarily say that Snead's going to be costing them a ton to keep. Like in terms of where they wouldn't be able to get it done. He's still going to be a guy who asks for enough money where it's like, yeah, he deserves what he's asking for, but I'm not sure it's enough right now that's going to break the bank. And if they, I mean, Trent McDuffie's been the one that's been better, in my opinion. Trent McDuffie's been the best secondary player that they've had already all season, the first two games. He's been everywhere. He's been doing it all. He's been taking that step forward. And I don't know if it's the injury, but we haven't seen a lot of the same out of L'Jarius Sneed right now. I don't know what's going on, whether it's in mental, but I think that obviously it's been 2 games, we'll see more get in there. But I do think as of right now, a second and a fourth or a fifth is probably within reason to expect from a trade.
Yeah, I think that could be fair. Let's remember, too, that L'Jarius missed all of training camp. So this is like week 2, like barely got his legs under him kind of thing. So I do think it's both mental and physical, and it will come along. Hopefully, what we haven't heard about was the knee inflamed and had a bunch of water and swelling on it again. Is that why he was limited in practice? Is there something else going on? I'm a little bit concerned, especially when you just saw Diggs go down. Diggs was the guy that I was all over in that draft cycle, and L'Jarius kind of snuck in at the end. That's what happens when you play at La Tech. People got to dig to find you. But he's actually had a pretty solid progression. As long as this knee thing doesn't derail him, hopefully he can keep that up and be worth offers. Let's see. After 2 games, what is the weakest link to you, Dan?
It's the gun that they're holding down at their side that they keep shooting themselves in the foot with. That's what this is. They gotta put the safety on. All right, you gotta stop doing it. Just stop. Someone has to put the safety on. Okay, who's gonna do it? Like you gotta figure out how to stop consistently putting themselves in poor situations. Multiple times on Sunday, they've got a drive going, penalties. They got a drive going, receiver not in the right spot that Mahomes expects him to be. They got the right receiver. They got the play. Here comes a pressure. Like it just inopportune situations. If they get rolling, they're going to be just fine. When they went down to score their the first touchdown of the game against the Jags, that was the Chiefs offense. That was it. They hit a 6-yard route to Travis Kelce. It was just a little spot route. They did the exact same thing on the opposite side with Sky Moore, and they had Noah Gray run a dig behind him, a dig and stop route. And they had the linebacker come right to Sky Moore because he's running that spot route. He hits Noah Gray behind him for a 12, 15-yard gain. They were just chunking the ball. Like when they get rolling, they know exactly what to do. And then he hits Sky Moore on the back shoulder throw. Innate. This offense needs to just stop shooting themselves in the foot, and they'll be just fine.
Clear the holster. I'm just saying. Get it out.
Get it out.
How many trick plays, fake punts, fake field goal type plays do the Chiefs see this week? You might see 1 or 2. I won't hold it against the Bears, but you got to be within scoring range. You got to be plausibly in the ball game to pull that off because it's not worth the risk otherwise. So if they fall behind 14, I don't know if there's any reason to see it, and they probably won't, is my thought.
Probably see, I'm going to bet on a punt pass. A punter throwing the football at some point in the game. But again, like you said, this has to be like in the first quarter. I don't expect this to happen outside of that. I don't think the game's going to be close myself. We'll get to our score predictions at the end of this, but this game shouldn't be close. And if the Bears are trying to get anything going, it's either their first punt or their second punt. That's it. After that, it shouldn't be within reason to continue to do this.
Agreed. And kudos to the Lions. Let's go back to
Yes.
that. They had the right idea. Be aggressive early. Be as aggressive as you can finally be, and you
Exactly.
might keep yourself in it for a bit.
Let's think about that really quickly. If they punt that football, how do you think that game goes?
Right?
How do you think that football game goes? The defense was already nails. They were doing great, and the fake punt gave them that momentum to go score a touchdown. And I know that again, there's no quantifiable proof that momentum exists except for when you watch football. It's there. It exists. It's on the field. So that kind of stuff, it's weird how it works. I'm not going to say I can definitively prove that's why, but it is a weird thing that when a team does something like that in a situation where they probably go on to lose the football game if they don't get that fake punt, things get weird. So I think the Chiefs might have blown them out if they didn't make that fake punt. I think that there might have been a reason that that game ends up completely different.
Yeah, I won't argue with you. I can certainly see that happening. Thanks, Jerome. And thank you, Tack. It's nice to see. Is it just me, or have Tooney, Creed, and Trey been mediocre? I wouldn't call it mediocre. Trey had a little trouble first game. I know Tooney had a false start, was a little out of sorts. Creed's looked very solid to me. Are they like hitting on all cylinders like they ended last season on? No, but the time off is significant. Like they needed to like tune down and get refreshed and that kind of thing. And so now spooling back up the beginning of the season, I think you still have to get back into fighting shape with each other, let alone just on your own. So I'm not concerned about it. Are you, Dan?
No, not really, not yet. Anyway, if it keeps happening like half through the season, that's the conversation to have because there are some weird inconsistencies with missed blocks and missing assignments or making an assignment too difficult, like making Creed have to block a 3-tech. It makes no sense. Like why is he having to reach block this guy, especially when in pass pro? Why is that happening? Like that kind of stuff shouldn't happen, and you see some pressures come for no reason because a center shouldn't be blocking a guy who's like 2 feet away from him. It shouldn't happen. Or 3 feet away from him. He's got to be a little bit more up on him. Otherwise, that A gap is very easy for him to get into, that defense tackle, whoever's playing. So just they're going to get better as the season goes along because they're one of the best interiors in football. And I'll say it again. Everyone keeps saying they're not going to be able to keep Trey Smith. Trey Smith is not playing his way into a massive contract extension. He's not going to be that difficult to hold on to, in my opinion. Now, that can change, and I'm hopeful that they can keep him around because he's going to be a very good player. He's going to have ups and downs. He's going to have games where you're just like, okay, that's rough. And then he's going to have games where he comes out and he puts a couple guys on the butts, which I can't wait to watch, to be honest with you. I think one of those games is going to be this week. I really do.
I think you're probably right. Thanks, Dak. It's glad you're back. Quentin, hope you're doing well. Nice to see you too. How many points do you think we will put up? Predictions there, but it is. I don't see the Bears defense with respect to their secondary. I do give them respect because they've got some talent back there. Jalen Johnson in particular is a player that I really like. So hey, if he's on the trade block, Ryan Poles, talk to me. But Brisker, there's a number of guys back there. So give them their due respect, but I don't think there's going to be enough up front to protect those guys long enough to make them super effectual. So I do think the Chiefs are going to be able to move the ball pretty well. We'll get to our predictions here in a minute. Generally, would you disagree with any of that?
Not even a little bit.
Fair enough. More nicotine. I've never seen a season long holdout and worked out for a player. Do you guys think that do you think players are catching on that yet? We don't see that many of them, but no, I think it's still a tool in the toolbox. And quite frankly, I think most of it comes from the agents. I don't believe any of this spin crap that we've heard all week about, oh, it was Chris digging it. It wasn't the agents. You've heard it from all the talking heads, all the capologists that want to defend the agents. Bull. It was them. I guarantee it at this point.
The simple fact that Chris Jones watched them play football to open the year tells me that it was the agents because they showed up. Why? Chris Jones wanted to be with his team. He wanted to watch his team, but he had to hold
He needed
out.
a little babysitting, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's your meal ticket and he's like, hey, you guys don't know what you're doing, I need to go back with the team. Like, you have to give him the attention to sit with him and keep him from being like, hey, Beach, let's just sign something.
Right. You got to keep an eye on him. And yeah, it's weird.
I question some of the national outlets that are trying to take it up and shift the blame towards Chris Jones. Florio is one of them. Honestly, a guy that I'm not going to call him out here. If he does it again, I definitely will. But a national former agent that has a pretty good level head most of the time, I think, is way off base on this Chris Jones situation. So don't get caught up in that drama. Let me just tell you that. Great, Raz Grizz. I'm gonna let Dan handle this one because I'm a broken record.
I mean, he got on the field more on Sunday against the Jags. He did. He slipped on a play, unfortunately. Just that's actually not the first time that's happened, so that's something to pay attention to. His footing seems to be a little off kilter at the moment, and I think at the end of the day, he's going to see the field much more in the second half of this football game.
Thank you, Caroline. I appreciate you. Hopefully this shows up. If my computer is not responding, thank you very much. Appreciate you. We're going to wrap it up here with Gary's the last question, and then we're going to give you our predictions. And I want to throw out just a general concept of what I want to see. I think, Dan, you've done a great job illustrating how you would call this game. But from our mod, Gary, give Gary a hand in the chat if you guys would.
Appreciate it, Gary.
Do you guys see Pacheco get a possible 100 or 80 to 100 yards versus the Bears? Right now, I don't know if he's going to play at all.
Yeah. I think if he plays very, very easily, I think he can get there. But again, that'll come to, are they going to run the ball? Are they going to do it? I'm still on the fence about whether or not they're going to. I do think the way they ended the game against the Jags will lead into this week because it was a very good way that they ended it. Yeah, they had the big play to Sky Moore, but they were able to get most of their drive going and wear that time down with running the ball. So I'm hopeful that they can do that. But if Pacheco's active, I do think it's in with more than within the realm of possibilities.
I agree with you. Now, I would really like to know what you think, whether you're in the live chat or not. Put it in the real comments. What do you see as a prediction for this? For me, it has to be going for the throat. And I think that they've stumbled enough, they've screwed around enough and been inefficient enough on offense that I do feel we have a better chance of seeing that. And as long as the absence of Nick Bolton in particular is the only thing that I'm worried about on the defensive side right now, as long as they can sustain that, I think they're going to be okay. So at the end of the day, I hope that they can follow through. If I'm on the sidelines, I'm pushing them to be just ruthless. I don't think it ends up being like that because it is Andy Reid, but it gets closer to that. I see this game as 27-14 Chiefs with maybe only that last score for the Bears coming late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm going to go over 30. I think that they're going to put up 38 points in this football game, and it's going to be just a way for them to get right. It's got to be a get right game, but I don't necessarily know how much to give the Bears because I don't know what to expect. I just don't know. I know that the Chiefs defense is going to be the best defense that they've played to this point, and I'm just going to give them 10. 38-10 Chiefs, and we're going to call this one away and away. It was never close. They came out, put the foot down, and they calmed everybody's nerves. The proverbial relax gets said on the field on Sunday.
I like that. Let's do this because this is the fun part for me. I want to see where you're at, and I will keep my mouth shut. You'll go first every time. And if you want to turn around and ask me questions too, that's fine. But guy that we haven't seen do anything yet, anything special, who maybe stands out against the Bears?
Joshua Williams. I think Joshua Williams, who's been the starting guy. I mean, he's mixed in a little bit with Jalen Watson, but I think he's going to get some hands on some footballs. Might come downhill, make a play much like Jalen Watson did last week. And maybe, who knows, maybe Jalen Watson earned more playing time because he was really good last week. And I think that was kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit, that he's usually been the guy that performs better than Josh Williams. But I do think Josh Williams still gets the start in nickel, and he's going to come in, get a hand on a ball, maybe get another interception, because that's live in this football game. It's very live in the way that they might be forcing the football downfield. So I think Josh Williams can get out there and make a little bit more of an impact than he has to this point.
Oh, I like that one, and I'm hopeful for that. For me, it's the guy that's been playing special teams pretty well, and I think because of the situation, I think he gets a chance to play some defense as well. I like Cam Jones, and I think he's going to show you why he made this roster and why they chose not to let him go. Cochran might get on the field as well, but I do feel like they need to see Jones a little bit. And he played at Indiana. It's around the Chicago area. Like, I think there's enough juice there that they might give him a shot. Offensively, who do you think is going to be the standout guy?
People, just take this with a grain of salt. Justin Watson is having himself a very nice season. He's open a lot, and I think he can continue to do so. I think he might reach about 70 plus yards and a touchdown in this game. You might see him take a deep one against, again, a talented secondary in Chicago. They have a lot of young talent. I like Kyler Gordon. I like Jaquan Brisker. I like Jalen Johnson a lot. There's not a lot of chemistry with their defense. They seem to just not be on the same page. We'll see how that changes with the new defensive coordinator. Maybe they bring a playbook with them this week and get things going in the right direction. But I think Justin Watson, funny enough, comes in, and I don't think Kadarius Toney plays, by the way. I know he's questionable. I don't think there's any reason to play him in this football game, and he probably won't start. And I think Justin Watson can have a good game.
I like where you're going. They tried. I named Watson last week. They tried to go to him.
They did.
It didn't work out quite as well as I had hoped, but I'm glad you're on that too. David, thank you for the question. Very much appreciate you. If you guys want some of the gear that Dan has on that I don't today, you can get that in the store over there. That always goes a long way. For me, it's like you said, the absence of Kadarius Toney is what I expect. And I do think that they'll take their shots with MVS and certainly with Watson. But who's in a position to do a little bit more of the dirty work? The guy that I think might get fed against the physicality that the Bears do have with Brisker, with Jalen. Jalen Jones isn't a guy that shies away from physicality either.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm taking the whole plan. I'm feeding Rashee Rice this week, and I want to see what he can do for me when he is the focus for a bit. Maybe it's just a quarter. Maybe it's a little bit more than that. But yeah. I'm going to feed him, and I hope that he responds. I think he will.
Yeah, I'd like to see them get him the ball more. And honestly, at this point in the season where, yeah, you've had some struggles getting the consistency of your offense, it's time to, in my opinion, put some of the offensive players to the side, the wide receivers specifically. There needs to be a rhythm going through these wide receivers. I think 4 guys, MVS, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, should handle the bulk of the work when the game is beginning, it's resuming, it's getting going. Yeah, you can still rotate your tight ends, your running backs in. The bulk of the wide receiver work needs to be 4 guys. Let them get on the field, let them get some chemistry, and allow them to figure some things out, because those are the guys that are going to be playing a lot of the snaps throughout the season. We don't know if we can count on Kadarius Toney to stay healthy. These guys need to be able to get some chemistry. And I think that at the end of the day, you need to let these players go out there, get some understanding of what you want them to do, not continuously switching them out for other players, and get that going.
My fadeaway shot of the day, FAU gets his first sack.
Let's go.
So
that would be fantastic. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. I want to know who you guys think is going to stand out. Put your comments down below, especially if you're watching this on replay. Harry dropped in one more question, and a lot of folks have asked this, so I do want to get back to it. So we'll just take that. Thank you, David. And Harry, we miss EB because Andy doesn't want to run the ball, and he's returned to his old ways. And if EB had to convince him in the Super Bowl, then we may be in trouble. Do you think that is true, that and he's just running roughshod, and there's no one there to answer him about balance?
I don't know. I'll be very honest with you. I don't know because Patrick has done something to Andy Reid that a lot of people didn't expect. Because to be honest, with the Alex Smith era, it was a lot of run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. It really was. It was a lot of running, and yeah, Alex was great at being a game manager. But there was there's obviously difference when you have Patrick Mahomes. So I don't personally believe that Andy does not let anybody influence his opinion other than Eric Bieniemy. I just think that he's understanding that there are 7 wide receivers that they've kept. There are 3 tight ends. There are 3 running backs, and they're trying to figure out some of the kinks. And there's been talk about how Juju Smith-Schuster was the guy that could handle some of the turnover, as it were, where he understands where he needs to be on the field. He understands how to spot drop in zone, how to sit down, the exact spot to break at. He knew all that. Right now, it doesn't necessarily feel like there's a lot of that because there are 7 receivers and a lot of young guys. So I think he might be overcompensating for trying to fix some of just the little tiny intricacies in the offense that aren't working in practice and maybe haven't worked in the games. That's my opinion.
Fair enough. Well, we want to know yours. Throw your comments down below,
Yep.
and we hope that you guys are ready. We're going to be live post game like we always are. I'll have my notes for you guys next week if you're in the memberships. So if you want, go ahead and join right now underneath Dan. Get ready for the weekend. I hope that you guys enjoyed college ball. Colorado's playing early. I had a piece on NFL 33 this week about Deion Sanders and what the concept is. So if you guys are interested in that, there's a lot going on. And game of the week, I'm guessing we'll probably both see it, if not now, certainly on film. Notre Dame, Ohio State. There's a left tackle there that y'all want to go watch. So if you want to see the future, go check out Notre Dame's left tackle. We appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. We'll be back with you post game for our live stream. Dan, thank you as always. Say hi to Little.
Always. Will do, you guys.
Take care, y'all.
Have yourselves a great weekend.
We'll see you Sunday.